Hey guys, welcome back. Another episode of Digital Artcast coming at you. Another interview. Adrian is away today doing his own thing, but I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing someone who I've wanted on the show for a while now. His name is Tim Kaminski, and he's joining me away all the way from Los Angeles at the moment. So, hey Tim, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. So I've actually wanted to get you on for a while now, but of course you've just moved recently. You're out in Los Angeles now, working at Wonderstorm Studios. Is that right?
Yep. Wonderstorm. Yeah, I just
Awesome.
moved out here about a month ago from South Carolina, and yeah, I started as an art director, and yes, that's where I am right now.
Wow, cool. Is that your first art director gig, or have you done that before? Or
I've done art direction a few times before at a few different studios. Mainly, I've focused on concept art, though.
okay, right, cool, yeah, yeah, and it's weird though because it seems like one of those jobs, or so I've been told, that if you're working as a director, there's less emphasis on you making art. It's more just you driving the direction of the actual project. Have you found that at Wonderstorm, or have you still been creating concept art there?
It depends on kind of what part of the pipeline you're in. At Wonderstorm, I've been creating a ton of art still. But
Yep.
I'm also working with outsourcers and things like that. But yeah, it is true you don't create as much artwork, or maybe
Right.
it's more you would say as many finished pieces. So I do a lot of draw overs, paint overs, or I'll do
Oh,
concepts
okay.
that are a lot rougher, kind of to get the
Right.
idea across.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool. So yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but when I was finishing off my honours project for university, I kind of came across your stuff at random, and I just loved your style. Which, if people haven't kind of seen it, obviously I'll leave Tim's links below, so you can check out his ArtStation. But yeah, just the kind of breadth of work that you've done, and you had this top kind of conversation earlier about how you love geometric shapes, and your kind of blues and teals. I'm almost stunned to ask how you came across this style, because it is probably one of the more unique styles I've actually seen in the 3-ish years I've been kind of studying concept art. But do you find that's been informed by your use of your 3D underpaintings, or is it something that's evolved from your sketching? Or
That's yeah. It's hard for me to pin that down exactly. I have
yeah,
always, even before I started using 3D in my concept artwork, I did always kind of strive for a more geometric approach to my drawings. So
right,
I
yeah,
think they just were more of a natural fit. The only thing though,
yep,
going into 3D, you have to always be careful not to make it look a little too stiff. So you kind of have to pull back a little
right,
bit. But yeah, uh,
yeah, okay,
it is interesting that a lot of people note the color in my work being a kind of prominent, because
oh yeah,
as an artist, I avoided using color in my work for years.
oh wow,
Let's see, I was probably 20, 25 or so before I even really started
yep,
painting with color. I mean, I used it a little bit
wow,
younger and just painting on cardboard and stuff like that and coloring books.
right.
But when I started kind of studying art more seriously, some reason I just ended up going with graphite and charcoal and just didn't do any color work at all and didn't really do any painting either.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, I feel that as well. Sometimes when you're doing pieces and you do the line work and you almost don't want to add the color because you feel it'll take away from, especially if you have such, because you have such strong line work and you feel that that's like your sketching part is enough. You don't want to color it. It almost takes away from the solid black and white line you've kind of laid out. Um, so yeah, I can totally relate. But yeah, I think like, colors is other things in learning art, like perspective, anatomy, composition. Color is its own uh, uh, thing to tackle, thing kind of hurdle, thing to overcome. It takes a lot to understand how it works well together with other colors, and how lights and darks, tones can complement pictures. And Yeah, and like you said, it's weird because your pieces are so colourful. It's almost impossible to think of you not using colour.
Yeah, it's funny that I'll be honest, I was afraid of kind of just going into that because there was so much I didn't understand about it. And like I wasn't
Yeah,
just doing line work, my work at that point was focused more on like hyper realistic graphite drawings or charcoal drawings.
yeah, I can kind of see even at the bottom of your art station the kind of Inktober stuff you were doing, or before that the sketches you were doing that were pure black and white. Same with the thumbnails.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what was the catalyst that made you move to 3D? I noticed that the first thing that is I can see that's colour in your art station is some of the 3D props you done, the Golem, the potions desk, the Star Wars bedroom. Was 3D what helped you move into colour, or was it something else?
No, no, that was this the portfolio on my art station isn't really chronological in that sense.
Right.
That was the
Yeah.
Inktober is almost actually more harkening back to my just using black and white stuff. The catalyst, let's see, I'm trying to remember. I think it was,
Was it for a particular project or something,
I
or
think what it was I was mainly focusing in traditional materials for a long time, and back when I'm doing all this charcoal and graphite stuff, like if you tried running Photoshop on a computer and you're trying to paint on it, it was ridiculous. You'd be using a mouse. I remember if you had a canvas, the canvas size had to be really tiny because I remember people
oh right?
working on computers, and these were like better computers at that point, and like painting on digitally and stuff like that, and they just drag the mouse across or fill it and just like walk away, or have to save it and walk away for like half an hour to wait for the file to save. And it
Oh
was
right,
just like
okay,
a lot of very. It didn't look like a fun time using Photoshop
right,
to paint or just painting
yeah.
digitally at that point. But I think it was just I didn't. I think I was just maybe afraid of mixing colors and stuff like that, and I didn't really hadn't studied it at all. It was just a very a
Right.
looming thing to learn that I just was afraid of learning because it's just so much to take on.
Yeah, I mean, I know I had this conversation with my friend earlier today because I'm trying my hardest to kind of move into map because I know there is work in that field, and like I said, I think we talked about this earlier how I was trying to use that as that can hopefully pay the bills and give me some experience as a map painter, and then I can also build illustration underneath that. Um, but yeah, it's weird to think how these processes come along and how you learn these things, and I'm wondering even with color is that I don't know if you would have used James Gurney, but was he an influence at all? Have you looked at some of his books on light and color? Because I know most people I know who study color and especially light and paintings, James Gurney's books are like the bibles for that kind of stuff. Was it similar with you, or was it a different process to learn? Or
I did read his books, and he even actually came to the school I was attending, SCAD, Savannah College of Art and
oh wow,
Design. It was funny because I was walking down
cool.
the street and I see this guy set up with his little floppy hat on. He's got his easel and everything, and I think his wife was there as well. And I was like, "Who's this guy? He's just sitting out here painting." And I walked past, and I was like, "Oh, wow, he's really good." And I didn't recognize him at all. And then later that evening, someone was like, "Oh, hey, you should come to this James Gurney thing," or I think I was planning on going to it anyways, but I just never really saw his face that much. And I go in the
Right, yeah.
presentation, and out comes that guy, and then he even shows pictures of the things he was painting, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Oh
And it's
shit.
like just kicking myself so hard for not like stopping it, at least saying hello and good work or something like that, because yeah, his stuff is
Yeah.
fantastic. I think,
Oh,
yeah.
he's
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say his understanding of light and color. I mean, obviously he wrote the book on it, but like when you look at some of his plein air stuff, it just speaks volumes about his understanding about how light works
Yeah, for sure.
and how color mixes. So yeah,
Yeah, his book definitely helped me. I don't think it was really like the main catalyst necessarily,
right,
but
yeah,
I would probably say digital painting and Photoshop was kind of like the main catalyst for that.
yeah. So I mean, I take it. I mean, you said you went to school for it, but were a lot of the things you were learning concept wise was that more self taught, or did you have a lot of instruction at school? Or
It was always I've always been doing all the classes I always took were focused on illustration, and I always
right,
wanted to
yeah,
do it digitally. but almost all my professors always, at least in undergrad, they would just push back on that so hard. They didn't want me to use uh, computers at all. They didn't want me. They wanted me to do everything traditionally, and it was just like this constant
Yeah.
struggle and fight with my professor. Just be like, I want to do digital, and
Oh,
yeah,
sucks, man.
it's fine. I think it probably actually helped me because it just fueled the fire. I was just like, I'm gonna use it anyways, type thing. Even though I was like a
No, it's
mouse to paint with and things like that. So
oh god, yeah. No, it was the same with our university because I just finished my honours degree and yeah, like a lot of universities are very out of touch with how the industry works. And don't get me wrong, I think having a strong illustration base and I think obviously starting in traditional media is very important. But yeah, if you want to work in the job you're working in, you know yourself, you need to. If you're not using it doesn't have to be Photoshop. It could be Procreate. It could be anything. It could be a Sketchbook Pro or something. But like you need to take that digital leap because that's the way everything is processed now is through computers. So yeah, it's almost hindering your students if you're not encouraging some form of that in your class. So you were sneaking off at night, like on Photoshop, drawing stuff, and then not showing anybody, keeping it all
oh,
hidden
actually,
from your
I would
lecturers.
still
Then,
show it.
good for
Yeah,
you. Then,
I
good.
would still I'd do my main projects digitally.
Yeah, yeah, and be like, hey, look what I done. Looks awesome, right? It's
Yeah,
digital.
exactly.
Yeah, I can understand that because yeah, there is a whole school of thought of your foundation needs to be as strong as it can be, which I totally agree with. I mean, that's one of the things I would say I lack is a strong foundation in the fundamentals, like perspective, like line drawing, anatomy, that kind of stuff. So, um, yeah, there's definitely a need for that stuff to be as solid as it can be, but there's no means that you can't use stuff to help that, like photo bash and like
Yeah,
3D.
I think
Um,
digital isn't really the reason that you might not be, but maybe fundamentals are focused on. I think it's just digital does leave open all those awesome things you can do, like using 3D and things like that. But yeah, you should still have fundamentals done, but you can still do your fundamentals digitally. So yeah, I haven't even done
yeah.
that many paintings in actuality. I think maybe five.
Yeah, I was going to say because your ArtStation is one of the most complex and full I've ever seen. Like it's it's absolutely littered with paintings and sketches and some of the guys I've seen on the pro side, maybe have 10 pieces in total. But again, maybe they're just showing the best stuff. But yeah, yours is rich with content, which I love because it shows your range and the stuff you can work on. Um, because yeah, not everything you do is what I would call stylized or you know I say the word is cartoony, but that's probably not a great way to explain it. But yeah, it has that bright color, large
Yeah, really
shapes.
strong silhouettes and very colorful and yeah,
Yep,
stylized. It is
yeah, yeah,
cartoony as well. I think that's more probably the uh, people who
yeah. Probably the reason you're working on a cartoon series at the moment. So
yeah,
yeah. No, because I know a lot of people were saying on your Facebook and stuff like that when you were sharing the Dragon Prince stuff. They were like, "Oh yeah, that seems like 100% your style, and I can see why you wanted to work there because yeah, it is very reminiscent of the stuff you draw or the style you draw." And yeah, I know obviously the project uh, drew you because of the director was obviously involved in Avatar: The Last Airbender,
yeah,
and the guys at the studio were super talented. But it did seem like it was fitting what you were making at the time. The stuff you were working on. It did seem to be along those
yeah. That
lines.
was actually it. They actually found me, and because I think they like my portfolio and my style matched as well, and so then it was
Right.
kind of like we just chatted back and forth from there. So
Cool,
yeah.
nice. And was that a kind of scary prospect of moving to LA and working there? Was that something you had to kind of think over a while, or were you just kind of like, nah, like I need to go
Uh,
and
at
this is
first,
it?
I
And
was just like, no, I don't want to move at all because I had a lot of preconceived notions about what LA was. So I was just like, and
Oh,
and
okay,
you know,
yeah,
I was doing my own thing. I've been doing
yeah,
freelance. I was working for a number of studios at the time already. You know, I was quite busy. And I was
right,
thinking about considering expanding out and creating a sort of a studio just to do concept art, which I probably will still do that at some point in my career.
yeah,
But yeah,
no, be interesting,
uh,
yeah,
so I was doing all that, and I was working like crazy, and then they contacted me out of the blue, and I was like, oh. And at first, I didn't consider it too much just because the moving prospect.
yeah, of course.
But then I started.
And well, I was going to say as well because you have a girlfriend as well, so that would probably mean that she would be involved in that process as well
Yeah,
to move
that
with
was
you.
part of it
So,
too. You know, I talked to her about moving, but she was more excited off to start with first because she actually grew up originally in LA until she was around
oh
9 or
wow,
so, and then moved to South
oh
Carolina with her family. So it was more like
yeah,
returning
oh,
to
that's
LA
awesome.
for her in a way.
Ah, okay, right, yeah. No, that I mean that kind of make it a lot easier, I'd imagine, on you because that maybe is, you know, a worry that you would have if you have a partner and you're having to move because then you're not just uprooting your life, you're kind of uprooting somebody else's. But then if she was on board already, then it almost helped you straight away make a better decision that, oh well, you know, it's going to be less hassle, so sure, let's
Excuse me.
do it. So how has LA been since you've been working there? I take it you found it. Have your preconceived notions of it been the same that you thought they'd be, or has it
Oh
been
well,
better? Or
so basically what happened was they talked to me, and I talked to some of the people at the studio. It was mainly I think Justin Richmond, Robert Cogburn, and a few others, and we just really hit it off. Like every phone interview or conversation was 45 minutes to an hour long, just kind of having a conversation excitedly, passionately about
oh,
games
nice.
and art and shows and story and whatnot. so so it's kind of one of
Wow,
those things
cool.
where I was just like, yeah, this feels like a natural fit to start already. And then after we talked a while, and they invited me out to LA, and I brought Megan as well, my girlfriend,
Right.
and we just had a fantastic time. Even though we had a ton of issues with our luggage, a separate story. But even with that, we had a
God.
fantastic time. Everyone at Wonderstorm welcomed me just like amazingly. It was I I've never had such amazing interviews. It just felt like a big group of friends. And I remember coming
Oh
home
wow.
to Charleston, South Carolina, where I was living at the time, and just being like, I missed them. So I was at that point, like, it was less them like contacting with me. Now I was like so excited to be part of the team and just waiting to hear back from them. And they got back to me right away too, so didn't have to wait that long. Yeah, but in the end,
Fantastic. Yeah.
our
I mean,
experience in LA was also fantastic. We went and just explored the city. We went to, was it Kat Von D's tattoo shop? Was it called High Voltage? LA Ink.
Ellie Inc. Oh
Is
no,
it?
she's of
LA
course.
Ink's a
Yeah,
show.
of course. I don't know if it's. Yeah, but I don't know if it, yeah, I can't remember what the actual shop's called. But yeah, I know what you're talking
I
about.
think
Yeah.
that's what it's called. But anyways, we went there.
And did you get? Did you?
I didn't get a tattoo, but
Yeah.
Megan did.
Did you,
And the tattoo artist,
oh
his name
yeah, of course.
Adrian. He was super nice, and he was going to charge for like a smaller tattoo. Well, he did charge for a smaller tattoo, but gave her like the bigger size that she had wanted because we showed up super late. But yeah, it was
Oh
an
cool.
amazing experience. Everyone was really nice, outside the studio and inside the studio. So it was, yeah, all my preconceived notions of, I don't know. I guess I was just thinking earthquakes or something. I don't know. I had this, whatever I
Yeah.
saw or
Yeah.
whatever when
No.
I was younger. I think I grew up in the '90s, seeing a lot of stuff
Yeah.
happening in LA that didn't look too fun.
Yeah, I could imagine. No. I was going to say just quickly as well, which might sound funny, but did you have the conversation with the tattoo artist that you were also
Oh
an
yeah, I
artist?
did. Yeah,
Because
I was talking. After a while, just sitting there waiting and stuff, I was talking to him. He was really nice. Just, I think Megan had passed out at this point, or just falling asleep while she had that too. But I was talking to them the whole time, and we ended up adding each other on Instagram or whatever like that, or talking to each other on Instagram for a while after still. So yeah, he was
oh,
a really
cool,
nice guy, and
nice.
yeah, we talked about just
Yeah, no, it's yeah, no, it's always interesting because my tattoo artist at the moment, Kyle, like was always kind of interested in what I was doing, because obviously the first conversation we had was about art, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm studying to do art, and I'm doing this at university, and I want to work in this job." And he was like, "Oh shit, I'm," because he was in a kind of punk metal band back in the day, and he decided to turn art into a career, and he became a tattoo artist, and his illustrations are really super awesome as well. And um, yeah, it's always interesting when you're getting tattooed, because tattoo artists will commonly work on people who aren't artists, that want tattoos. So it's always interesting, I think, for them when they meet people who are also artists, because then yeah, it's a conversation you can have that's out with the normal
Yeah,
usual
for sure.
stuff.
I
So
would imagine most of their
yeah,
clients are probably not artists, and it's more rare to get artists, but maybe not. I'm
yeah,
not sure. Yeah,
no, it's definitely not an artist a lot
yeah,
of the
that's what I
time. So
imagine. But
yeah,
yeah, you could tell. I could tell when he was working on the
yeah,
tattoo that I don't know when you watch an artist paint and draw. Sometimes they certain facial expressions that they make, you could tell they're just really focused and passionate and just like in the zone almost. I know I do it when I'll be drawing. Sometimes I'll just like curve my lip a little bit or something, and I could just tell that he was really focused on it. I was like, yeah, you can tell he's really good at this, and I mean, imagine the thousands and thousands of
yeah.
tattoos.
The most Yeah, the most hilarious things are always when you watch people on Twitch painting and they do the whole thing where they turn their head constantly. Their head's like almost horizontal
Oh
when
yeah,
they're
yeah,
trying to figure out
keep thinking
like
about
line
it.
work or
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, happens so much. Always funny to watch. And then you comment obviously and people are like, "Am I doing that?" Oh shit! So, um, yeah. So you're working on Dragon Prince, and that's due out in September on Netflix. Um, so what was kind of your build up to moving out to Wonderstorm? What had been your previous kind of things you've been working on? I know obviously Clash Royale had been doing some stuff. You'd done some card art. Was it a mixed bag of things, or have you always kind of worked in illustration?
Even though I had studied illustration as my main focus, I had always illustration was just that was the path I wanted to use to do concept art because
Yep.
I wanted my concept art to be really crafted and I guess generated completely from my mind. I didn't want to do too much photo bashing and things like that. And if I did do photo bashing, I'd use it limitedly in clouds and things like that. Uh, but
Right. Okay.
oh,
Yeah.
I started went off topic. I was. So, anyways, what I was going to say is most of the work I was doing was concept art. A lot of it sort of went either way from video games to animation, which I guess would be kind of viz dev. With the Clash Royale stuff, I was doing
Yep.
background for
Yeah.
animations, and that was a blast. I loved working on those. I did a few different projects with them, and the last one I actually worked with another artist that has a similar style to me. Uh, his name is CG or well Surreal. I forget his last name now. I'll have to pull it up. We can probably have links,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
yeah.
Show notes.
We'll put some show notes in there for because I feel bad forgetting people's names.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, anyway.
So I mean, yeah. So you were doing concept art earlier on, and then did you feel that they were going to good testing grounds for the Wonderstorm stuff, or have you kind of worked at that level from university, or was your first job like really hard and then you kind of learned a lot on it, or I mean, kind of take us back to past university,
Oh,
like how
okay,
you
yeah,
kind of started. Where was your
yeah.
first kind of kicking off point?
Going off the Wonderstorm, was it harder, or what kind of work was I doing before then? It was pretty much all over the place with a strange focus, I guess you could
Mm.
say. It was I have like
Mm-hmm.
tons of 3D work, and I do work in Unity, which is an engine used for making games. And I've even built a number of my own games. They're not released or finished necessarily, but they've all been started. And I had a game
Oh.
called Shattered that I was working on for a number, actually for I think it was 6 months I worked on it, and uh, some personal stuff happened. I stopped working on it, and the person I was working with also moved away, so we couldn't work on it as well. But anyways, that was a 2D
Okay.
pixel art project that I was doing in Unity, and my
Cool.
friend Garrett Brown was doing all the programming, and we were working together on game design, and I was doing all the art, and some artists were helping little bits here with animation, things like that for the character. But that was, I think that's kind of where I got the broadest focus or the broadest amount of skills as an artist because I was doing pixel art, I was thinking about animation, I was thinking about effects, I was thinking about gameplay, I was thinking about story. Like the whole thing I had to be thinking about it all the time. So it was kind of like the art direction role, but also doing the implementation in Unity. So I was learning the entire pipeline, though it was 2D. And around at the time, I was working at Kiz Studios, which they do mobile games, and I don't know if they're still. They shut down as well. They had a massive layoff, is why I don't work there, or what happened those years ago. But anyways, I was working there, and it just wasn't that challenging of a studio. I just felt like I would always didn't have that much of a challenge while I was working there, so I wanted to do some side projects. So that's how I started the side project Shattered,
Right.
and that kind of got me in the idea of just making games. And I'd always wanted to make games since I was younger, but that was the first time that I really took a step towards making games and found out how possible it was. And that just got me super passionate about just wanting to make games, wanting to do the entire pipeline, the whole process. And from there, my father passed away, and that's kind of the catalyst of why I stopped working on it. And then my friend, that Garrett Brown, he moved away, so we couldn't really work on it either. And a lot of stuff happened then, and that was just kind of reorganizing my life, I guess.
Yeah, I could imagine it. And obviously, condolences for your passing. You know, your father. It can't be easy, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's always a life-changing moment, and I've had friends of mine who've faced similar problems, and it's never easy. But you try to make your life move forward in a positive way, and remember the good things. And
that's kind of the way I look at it. Is my father lives on through me, so hopefully I can take the good things that he was and pass those along to the next generation of whoever people will share it, whatever.
Of course, yeah.
With the thing of Shattered, I think after I was working on that, and kind of my new step was sort of I wanted to give back to the community that I had sort of I've always followed tutorials and consumed all these tutorials and references and everything out there of how to draw and how to paint and YouTube and whatnot. And I just wanted to kind of give back because I felt like I knew enough stuff to sort of help other people out as well. So that's why I started doing Twitch and YouTube streaming and tutorials and things like that. And I love doing that stuff, and I wish I had more time to focus on it right now and do some more of it.
Yeah, it's always hard when you want to make those things, because I think someone always said there was a saying. Someone said, I forget the context or where it was, but they say that the idea is where you take the elevator up, your job is to send it back down,
or like the forward type idea, I guess, is the other concept.
Pretty much, because I think one of the first talks that really struck me was a couple of years back when I first met Titus Linter, and he had a whole talk on sharing information, and it's very important because it then creates this system where people can learn rapidly, more people can get in the industry, people can improve quickly, and it also helps you as an artist because teaching reveals so much about you as a person, how you learn as well, and how you teach and how you interact with other people. So it's always a good tool for you as an artist to teach people because it does help you not even just as an artist, but obviously to just be a better human being sometimes. So and then with art direction, obviously you are then instructing people and helping them grow as well in their roles. So teaching obviously is kind of part of art direction. It's not just managing people, it's also helping them grow within the studios. So I take it, if you found that within doing art direction, it's a good opportunity for you to help people who are working for you, or who you're working with.
When I was talking in talks with Wonderstorm to be the art director there, or be an art director there, that was one thing I was thinking about. And actually, a huge straw is just to go and grow with a team and teach and learn, be a mentor, and also just that's super appealing to me because I'd always wanted to teach as well. That was the reason I attended SCAD
Yeah.
to get my master's, was to put myself in a position where I could teach at a professional or at like universities and stuff, if down the road I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah. That's interesting as well because I mean I just finished my what's not a BA, it's a BSc. It's actually a science degree. It's because it's there's so much computer work involved with 3D. So I actually got the opportunity to go study a master's at the Glasgow School of Art, and I did turn it down. And, well, initially I wanted to go, but then I ended up referring it because I thought, how can the masters help me? How would that benefit me? But have you found that it has helped in your journey as an artist, or are you quite happy you went and done your master's degree? Or
yeah, for sure. I'm really happy I did, because if I think about it, that's so much life experience I wouldn't have experienced, or it would have been different. So in that regards, for sure. But also,
wow,
it's very expensive, so in that regards, not so much. But uh, I still, I don't
yeah,
regret it,
yeah,
because I met a lot of great people. I learned a lot, even though I sort of think a lot of it was more not necessarily self-taught, but most of my, I'll say there was like one or two professors there that taught almost everything that I know from them, or just the rest was from other students, or just kind of seeking out stuff and just pushing myself as hard as I could and being really passionate about it.
yeah. Was your master's in illustration or
Yeah,
art? Was
it
it an
was a
art-based
I have
master's
master's in
degree?
illustration. So which I undergrad in illustration. I kind of,
Oh
I
wow.
guess in my mind I was like, oh, so if you get a master's, it should just be added on top of what you already have. But I later learned that a lot of people just do
Hmm.
completely different master's programs, which in hindsight makes sense. But for me, I really wanted to keep pushing that side of things. Even though later I ended up shifting to 3D and
Yeah, I think that's
game design and whatnot more so. But that was always part of the
right. Yeah, because the masters I was looking at the time was um, virtual reality and serious gaming. So it was actually using games as a way to help people with learning disabilities or some form of that. Like some games that would be tailored towards people with autism or some kind of inherent learning difficulty, dyslexia, some stuff like that. So it was taking those tools, those game tools or those VR tools, and finding a way for that to help people in those situations. So although it seemed like a really interesting masters, it wasn't specifically what I was wanting to study. So I think that's more why I wasn't 100% wanting to do it. But yeah, if you got to study illustration, then that would have been a great opportunity for you to, like you say, reinforce
yeah.
that skill. I'm wondering if they do
Really, I just
illustration
wanted,
masters
like, my
across
main
there.
thing was like, I want more fundamentals. I want to just be really good at drawing. Was kind of, that was the other reason I was like, okay, I'll go to masters and just continue illustration so I can just get even better at drawing. Even though while I was there, I ended up kind of shifting into 3D
Yeah,
significantly.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think 3D almost is a given now with modern day pipelines. I mean, it does help in terms of processing speed. I think it's almost hindering yourself if you can't incorporate into your work. I think it does help on multiple levels, and I think speed is one of them. But I think the good thing about your art is that you use it just enough. It doesn't feel like you're leaning on it too much, if that makes sense. Like there's enough of the process of 3D in there that you can feel the painting out once you've blocked in the initial shapes. And with your skills in painting and illustration, you can then take them to finish, and it doesn't feel like a lot of people who use 3D basically as a crux to get away with not bothering about perspective or scale or composition. It's almost like they have 3D and photo bash and they don't need to learn anything. I think that's what I was kind of airing about earlier, is that people rely on those tools almost too much now and don't pay enough attention to, like you said, the
Yeah, I think
fundamentals of
that's
drawing.
important to have really strong fundamentals, even if you are using a lot of 3D, 2D, or whatever, or photo batching. I think
Yeah.
3D is definitely, the draw is that, oh, hey, you can help with perspective, and I think that was one of my things early on. I was just like, I can do perspective, but it just takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good to know perspective, but still, and be aware of it, and still be able to draw without it, because you can't always have 3D, and sometimes you have to doodle on napkins and things like that. But
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
definitely. I mean, no, I was going to say that I remember meeting an art director a few years back when I was talking to him about working at a studio, and he handed me a notebook or a sketchbook that was literally the size of my hand. And every page was just filled with absolute gold, because his illustration, he was actually a comic book artist before he had moved into games and cinematics. And yeah, like I said, if someone has that strong illustration background, you can tell straight away how strong their ideas can be, especially when you've got that. Because you have a million ideas in your head, but illustrating them on paper and making them come alive is hard, because then the technical skill gets in the way. But if your illustration is strong, then there's less barriers for
Exactly. Yeah.
those ideas to flow
I
out
still I
into.
still need to
Yeah.
push my fundamentals,
Um,
because like I still have barriers in certain places, and it would be nice to. I don't know if anyone ever achieves like Zen drawing, but it'd be nice to reduce some of those.
oh god, yeah. I don't think anybody's ever going to be, happy, especially with artists. It's always an evolving process, and um, I've been lucky enough to actually get offered a kind of mentorship with an illustrator at the moment who works within quite big companies, and the stuff he was getting me to do, or was kind of still getting me to do the fundamental stuff. It is frustrating, because you're trying to replicate things one to one, and it is hard because you've not trained that muscle enough. So things like head studies and hands, excuse me, you're trying to replicate them one to one, and because you lack that the eye, the observational skill, you're drawing what you think you see, but you're not really. You're drawing what your mind thinks it sees. So it's almost a transformation from the paper you're looking at to your head back down to your hand. And I think that's something that takes a long time, is that observational skill, is being able to replicate things one for one. Yeah, because it's an invaluable skill. You need to be able to. I mean, the one-to-one thing, sometimes people can agree or disagree that if you're doing like there was a whole talk I listened to on Jake Parker's podcast, 3 Point Perspective, and he was saying that um, actually one of the guys, Lee, who was talking, was saying that if you're doing a master study, you need to make sure that the two look identical. Like if you can tell the difference between them, then you've kind of failed. But then Jake was almost like, well, I don't know if like replicating something one for one is or should be the goal. Like I think if you get as close as you feel you can, um, because it takes obviously practice, you shouldn't be like killing yourself if like a tree's
Yeah,
out of place or the color's
yeah. I
wrong
would
on one of
say
the
it's
rocks. You know
not.
what I mean? Like it's
I would disagree with
yeah,
saying someone saying that it's a fail if you didn't get it perfect or make it look identical, because unless that was your only goal, to replicate a painting. But I think a master study, the goal is to learn. So I feel like even if you did 50% of it and you learned like a little bit, you still win. I would say, yeah, master studies for sure.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
all it.
yeah. Yeah, because I done a thing. I don't know if I ever showed you this, but on March Station, I done a kind of 30-day challenge where I did a Hearthstone card study, like an illustration study every day for like a month. So I took a painting from one of the Hearthstone cards, and I tried to replicate it one for one, and I managed to pump out I think 30 paintings. And yeah, I felt they were helping me in terms of learning the overall process and seeing how colours work together and how line art could inform different shapes. But I kind of gave up after a month, because I think I made it so intense. Um, it was almost a burnout waiting to happen, because, yeah, when I was trying to learn certain things, I was always in the back of my mind that, oh shit, I need to do a 3 hour study of a Hearthstone card today, make sure it's out by tonight. Because, yeah, I was trying to get them out like
Yeah,
every single
those
day.
daily challenges are
Um,
always quite
and yeah, that
difficult.
was,
I remember like doing 3D. I could do 3D before, or I've been able to do 3D for quite a while, but I wasn't able to do 3D that was game ready 3D. So it's like textured and UV'd and all that stuff.
all right, yeah.
So I started.
Yeah.
I don't know if some other people said they had also started it, but never really caught up. The 3D December, so it was a 3D model every day, and I think I, how
Oh
many days
shit.
did I do? I
Yeah.
did quite a few days. Let's see what I got here. I think I made it to, what was it? Maybe 24. I think I did 24 days. Oh no, I did 25 days. But that
Right.
was
Okay.
a great learning experience. And that was I was doing
Yeah.
that after like I'd get out of work, and I think I streamed most of them. And
Yeah, I can see them on your portfolio. But then I think that's, I mean, I've never had Jake on, and my goal is to have him on this year before October hits again. But he talked about October was built, and the reason he started it was because he wanted people to be doing something every day. And that was the idea, is that you, the October is to make you draw every single day, because he feels that most professional artists aren't really doing that. You know, they'll draw once or twice a week, or students will draw once or twice a week and think it's enough. But he's like, even if it's for half an hour, you need to be making sure that every single day you're doing something, like some form of sketching or drawing or painting or modeling, or the one daily task that makes sure that you're filling that creative box. And yeah, I'm definitely guilty of it. Going 2 or 3 days without doing anything, especially at the weekend. Um, yeah, that's the hard bit, I think. Right, is keeping it consistent. That's the challenge.
that's
Do you
yeah,
feel
that's
that as
definitely a
well, or?
challenge as like a professional artist, and just as an artist in general, you should be doing art every day, all the time, for sure. Uh, I do find that challenging, and I've done
Yeah.
Inktobers and 3 Decembers and all that stuff, and it's great for like that month that you do it and everything like that. But the problem is, yeah, you don't continue doing it, which I I have bursts
Yeah.
where I can, I'll paint every day, draw every day, but I think it's just I'm working every day doing art all day long, so a lot of times I'll come home and just, not do any art for a little bit. But I do feel like I'm being
Yeah.
creatively
Yeah.
fulfilled at work though, so
Yeah, I was going to say, because obviously your job is art based and creative based, so it's different for you, because then you're spending 8 hours a day working like that. So you're filling that niche. But I think it's almost, it probably is more for students. But then, yeah, I do feel there is students I've known who want to be illustrators or want to be
yeah.
concept artists, and they aren't drawing every day, or do, the bare minimum, and feel like, oh, that's enough, that will get me work. But you and I know the reality is that
Yeah.
you
Well,
need to be working your butt off to
I'm
make
by no
sure
way
that
saying that
you're
I
noticed.
should
And
not be doing work every day when I come home and everything, because I should be. But like right now, I think I'm just kind of
no, of
taking it
course
easy
not.
because
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
move and everything like that. Even though I should be unpacked and stuff, I'm still not.
Of course.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then you're doing the 8 hours a day. You're working in the studio from from whenever to whenever. So you are doing something creative. Like you said, if it's not initially the finished pieces, you are doing paint overs or sketches or stuff like that. So you are doing enough during the day that when you come home at night, you can rest. But yeah, there is students I know who will come home, or came home from university for my class, would jump on
yeah, I
Xbox or
remember I was
PlayStation,
guilty
and
of that too. Like I remember my professors
yeah,
being like, "Oh, get a
that can.
draw every day and draw all the time," and I tried to, but a lot of days I'd miss it.
Yeah, I think it's also making it fun as well, because you can definitely tell with the pieces you've done in your art station that you can always tell you're having fun. It's always something you wanted to create and worlds that you envisioned. The Forgotten Future stuff is the kind of whole reason I was doing part of my stuff, as well as that was the stuff that was inspiring me, and you could tell from start to finish it was
Yeah,
something you had a kind of passion to
sure.
draw or something to create. And yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's the
once you leave
thing.
uni,
Like
you have that. So
about
yeah,
drawing every day, painting every day. It does. The more you paint, the more you draw, the more you're breaking down those barriers, those limitations, and the more you're opening up your mind and you're becoming more passionate about your work. And it feeds the fires and makes you want to paint and draw and create more too. So
yep,
it's one of those things. It's just kind of hard to get past
yeah.
the lazy part of your mind or whatever. Sometimes the procrastination.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's yeah, 100%. I think also it's part of that way that when you learn initially, you're limited because the fundamentals lack. So if you're drawing something, your perspective's off or your scale or your anatomy's really shit, then it does almost put you off because you're like, I'm terrible, I don't want to do it. But if you get past the boring part, I say boring part, the essential part, but people can find it dry, where you're learning base anatomy, you're learning perspective, you're learning line work and shading. Once that barrier has passed, then sure, you can have fun with it, but the initial step
Yeah,
can
it
be
can. There's
frustrating
also
for a lot of people.
there's sort of like the artist eye where you can recognize issues, and then there's the ability to draw that, like the hand-eye coordination, the memory, and the shapes knowledge, and everything like that. And when those two aren't aligned, it's very frustrating. Like if your eye bypasses your ability, it can be very frustrating because you can see all your errors. You just have to
Oh
make
god,
sure to
yeah.
be like to understand that's part of the process. Like you're not going to draw things perfect first time.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing is another again Jay Parker again, but he done the whole talk about finish not perfect and how 1,000 finished pieces are better than 3 pieces you finished that were super, on the money or were rendered to a high standard. He's like, it's about the volume of work. It is in that case, especially when you're first learning, it is quantity over quality. Like you want to be pumping out multiple iterations of stuff and making sure that you're putting the hours in before
Oh yeah, for sure.
you focus on
A
detail.
lot
That
of
makes sense.
artists they fall into
Especially
the
when I,
trap of just
yeah,
wanting to make
100%.
finished work, and that's really frustrating too because you're expecting to make finished work when you don't have your
Yeah,
fundamentals down. But it's also like you're saying, it's kind of dry to do fundamentals sometimes, or some people
yeah,
can consider it that. And you're like, oh, I want these finished pieces, I want that, but that's not what's important. It's the fundamentals that's important.
yeah, definitely. And I was just going to kind of close out of this, but um, I had a conversation with someone recently at an event where we talked about ArtStation in general and how when you open it, or somebody had said, oh, when you open ArtStation every time, there's so many beautiful paintings. But one of my friends said, oh, yeah, there are so many beautiful paintings, but you feel the design aspect of it is going down. There's beautiful landscapes and so many cool colors, but the functional forms and the practical stuff is being left behind. There's no turnarounds, there's no extrapoling kind of parts that are showing how these things move and function. Um, what do you feel like is lacking in the community just now, or what do you feel if you looked at a student's portfolio? Is there common things you see that people lack? Is it too much emphasis on pretty pictures?
It's not necessarily something that's lacking. It's something that I see too much of, which is I see a lot of fan art in portfolios,
Yeah,
and it fan art is really good for, I guess, seeing that someone can replicate a style.
yeah,
And but if it's a character artist and almost all their work is fan art, or a character designer, I don't see any character designs. They're just replicating someone else's character designs.
right, yeah,
So it is good for people to get attention to their portfolios using that, but I don't think it's the best way to get a job.
yeah. No,
I
totally.
see a
Because I
lot.
was going to say,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was going to say because obviously I've seen a couple of um, Breath of the Wild stuff that you had done. I think it was the kind of first stuff I noticed. But then again, that's not your whole portfolio. That was just 1 or 2 pieces because you love Zelda, so you were paying tribute to the game. Um,
Yeah,
and I
and
take it that
I'm not saying it's a problem to pay tribute at all. I mean, fan art is super fun to do too, and
yeah,
it's fun to share that stuff, to share your passion.
yeah, totally. But then obviously just don't focus on it. Just don't make sure that your whole portfolio is just that.
Yeah, if you're a character designer and your character in your portfolio is all fan art from other character artists, then you're not really showing an art director or a studio what you can do. You're just showing that you're good at maybe your fundamentals or something. You're good at creating
Yeah,
stuff that
replicating
already
stuff
exists,
back over.
replicating. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And again, with design aspects of it, do you feel like again there is the too much of the pretty picture phase? Do you feel like people need to reinforce functional design stuff? Do you feel that's a problem with an art station or?
Yeah, not. I guess. Yeah, I do see a lot of sort of. I guess the other thing I see too much of is just sort of like just like sexy characters with nonsensical armor and nonsensical design, and
Yeah.
or just like sexy characters without a good core design to the character. Like
Yeah.
the sex appeal is the design of the character. Apparently, it doesn't have anything deeper. There's not any
Yeah.
storytelling there.
Someone was telling me the other day that the ArtStation's kind of going the way that it used to be before. You know, it used to be that CG hub was the thing that
Mm-hmm.
used to be the place that, and that was what the problem with that was getting eventually was that there was so much shiny boob armor everywhere that it kind of drowned out the other, you know, fantastical designs or stuff that was actually interesting to look at.
Yeah, and there can be characters that are like appealing sexually, but also good character designs.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know if that's because obviously you go on the trending pages, and I don't know if that speaks to the audience that's consuming it, but most of the stuff that is trending is typically female and typically scantily clad. I mean, I know um, even just looking just now, I'm browsing and I can see the first 5 or 6 rows. There's at least 7 or 8 females in armor or anatomy studies, naked women basically. So, in fact, actually, one of them's a fan art for Cyberpunk, and yeah, it's views and stuff kind of tell the story of why it's trending. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
At the same time, there's just copious amounts of amazing concept art on ArtStation as well, and
yeah,
I feel like uh, ArtStation does a pretty good job of kind of maybe not necessarily monitoring, but sort of having like the picks page in
yeah,
community and sort of making sure the focus is on concept art and art for games and art for animation. Just because you can see like at their top page, it's usually
yeah.
features really outstanding artists that are bettering the community.
Totally. No, I agree. And then, I mean, there is a place for the sexy art, and you know, if that's people's bag, then I mean, 100%. Like, there's nothing against it, but you don't
Yeah.
want it being overpowering actual good functional design within
And
art station.
there's a
So
career for that too. You know, it just depends. Like if you're trying to get into the industry for concept art and like portfolios I'm looking at, I want to see someone who can create new characters and has their process and things like that. I love seeing people's process because it usually tells more about the artist and the art than the final picture does.
yeah, 100%. No, 100%. You want to see that flair for creating stuff or making those things or those interesting designs that you never thought could exist. And yeah, like I mean, I know I just watched a talk not too long ago about Anthony Jones was talking about portfolios, and he kind of passed his portfolio years ago before he got into the industry a while back, and said to the guy at the time, you know, what am I lacking? And the guy said, well, you know, all your fundamental skills are there. Your drawing and your painting is great. What do you want me to kind of tell you? And he said, well, I'm looking for specifically how I get better. And he was like, well, you need to be drawing stuff that like inspires me or inspires other artists. And when I look at your portfolio just now, it doesn't inspire me because it was just not bland, but it was just the normal character stuff that a lot of other people were doing. So then that's why he started doing the more fantastical monsters and stuff like that, because it was designs that people want to see, and you know, directors can look at it and go, "Oh, that would suit the project we're doing. That's awesome." You need to kind of show art directors the stuff that they want to see, not that you think they want to see, if that makes sense. I think
Yeah,
you feel the
well,
same. Yeah,
I I would take that and sort of simplify it and say that you should be doing stuff that you're really passionate about, creating content that you're really passionate about, that you really want to show the world. Because yeah, like you
right.
said, usually the confusion is artists are like, oh, what I have to try thinking, I'll try making this painting and make it what they want. But really, you should just make it the best piece of art you can and think about all the aspects that make it a good piece and
Yep.
focus on what you enjoy and what you like and infuse that passion into creating something that works with the project you're working on or trying to get it to work on or whatever.
No, 100%. I agree. There's a guy specifically just now that I kind of follow on ArtStation, and his name's Nicholas Cole. Do you know the guy at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of his stuff recently I've been super inspired by. I actually got turned on to his work because one of my friends, Max Berman, was making a game called Sleep Tight, and Nicholas done a lot of the character stuff for that. Some of the monster design and the kid design and stuff, and yeah, like his portfolio definitely is one of those I would look at and say, that guy knows how to imagine characters. Can really bring those guys to life, and I think he's also a good example of stuff you kind of should be doing. You can tell there's passion behind his drawings.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the color and the characters, and he has also like
Yeah.
his redesigns for Spyro and things like that.
Oh yeah, the Spyro stuff was awesome as well. So yeah, it's yeah, definitely awesome portfolio.
Yeah,
Again, I'll probably link in the show notes, but yeah.
yeah. Nicholas worked on. He did a poster. Like there was this game Hob from Runic Games, which the studio sadly shut down now. But
Right.
Runic had gotten a few different artists to do a poster, and he was one of the three artists. I did one, he did one, and then one of the artists at Runic did one as well.
Right.
Also, I mean, look
Yeah.
at his mustache.
Yeah, yeah. You can't obviously with the visual representation. I'll try and put a picture on YouTube just now, but I'll link this on the show notes. But yeah, Nicholas is one of the portfolios definitely that stand outish on ArtStation. You can see his stuff a mile away. Also, I love the fact that sometimes you can look at somebody's stuff and know it's that artist. Like I have noticed that with your work, if you post something new or there's something that I've not seen before, but I see it again, and like without even looking about who posted it, I'm like, oh no, that's Tim's work. So yeah, it's
That's good to hear. That's yeah,
yeah,
really.
but that's good though, because style is like that could be another whole hour podcast. But style is a thing that yeah, you spend most of your life trying to define your own style, and yeah, it's almost one of the most difficult things. It's not even a technical skill. It's just making your stuff look like you or the way you
Yeah,
want to look in.
I kind of
Yeah.
feel like that. I remember being in school, and like that was a very big conversation. Everyone always was like, "Oh, I gotta find my art, my style, find my style." And I wasn't really concerned with it because I was just like, I'm just gonna draw, and I feel like if I just draw and paint, that'll just come naturally because everyone else is stressing about finding their style. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
everyone's there's you're seeking this elusive thing that I think if you seek it, you're not gonna find it.
No, definitely. And I think my biggest problem I've had, illustration wise, anyways, and especially when I started thinking about the industry a couple of years back, is that I was almost trying to copy people one for one,
Hmm.
which is the wrong thing to do because, yeah, then you're just becoming a carbon copy of somebody else that already has that job. So, how are you going to get the job? But yeah, I would look at guys like Titus when I first interviewed him and really serious painters, a lot of the guys that worked in the division. And I'd be like, yeah, that's what I need to do to get a job. And I wasn't making the art I wanted to make. And that's almost what hindered me for all those years, is because then the imposter complex came in and you compare yourself to those guys who are already at such a high level. Yeah, it's almost like you're setting yourself up for failure if you're not making
Yeah,
your version of you.
we're kind of that kind of loops back into what we were talking about earlier, where you're focusing on the final piece. You're not focusing on learning the fundamentals. Because
Yep.
that's the big problem. Is like when you're starting out, you want to make a portfolio, but you don't have all the skills yet ready to do so.
Yeah.
But it is good to study other artists. I think doing master studies and everything, that's great. Just as long as you post and show that you're like, oh hey, this was inspired by, or this is a copy of, or link to
Yeah.
artists.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah. So that's been an interesting conversation. I would say definitely it's moved back and forward. But yeah. For those of you though who don't know or haven't noticed this in the edit, yeah, Tim's computer died about 10 minutes ago, and we had to restart. So yeah, it's been
And it
it's been
was completely my fault because it wasn't plugged in.
yeah, it
I,
was one of those. Yeah.
at first, I was like, I could act like the internet. I was like, no, I'm just gonna, yeah, I can't that lie. I mean, I can't, I can't lie. It was totally my fault.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, just one thing I did want to bring up before I head out here for sure
Yeah.
is the Dragon Prince, which is the show that is being talked about today at Comic Con and announced, and the trailer was announced as well. And
Mhm.
for everyone who hasn't watched it, you should definitely go watch the Dragon Prince trailer. It's
Yes.
super exciting, intense, like 45-second trailer, and it's gonna get you all excited. And check out the poster I did too.
Yeah, I'll link it all below, including the trailer. I'll put that in as well. And yeah, it does give me an Avatar feel. It's almost like the dark, serious tone, which has the mixing of the almost anime humor kind of stuff. It makes sense. Yeah, there is a lot of serious tones within the conflict and action stuff, but then there is comedy moments that break it up in between. So yeah, it does look super interesting. And again, we talked about this earlier, and I don't know if people have noticed again, but if you haven't, but yeah, it's been written and directed by one of the key guys who worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, which for me sold me straight away because Avatar is. I don't know if Tim knows this, but I have a tattoo of Aang on my forearm.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of people that worked on Avatar on it. We've got there's also like the directors and stuff. If you go to the website, there's a whole slew of people.
That would be a dream project, I think, for people who are a fan of Avatar, because that program shaped my life in so many ways. Korra as well, obviously, but the first obviously was just Aang it's just a pose of him sitting meditating with his fists together, but his tattoos are all lit up and his eyes are glowing and stuff, and there's wind symbols behind him. But it was one of the first ones I got Kyle to do actually, and it's one of my favorites because Aang's just it's pretty awesome. Like as well, the way Kyle drew him, he's in his older state when he's a bit more grown up. And he's got his kind of traditional monk robes on. But yeah, it's one of my more favourite tattoos because Avatar for me was one of the first art books I think I bought as well.
Oh really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So just seeing the illustrations of the cities like Ba Sing Se and stuff like that, and Aang and Appa and like the whole story that the whole kind of series was going to take a dramatic turn to start with. It wasn't even going to be about Aang as a boy. It was going to be he was going to be a cyborg, and then Appa the flying bison was actually going to be a dog who was like a companion. And they didn't even have the elements like until like the last minute. It was all kind of like within the last 2 or 3 months they decided that they should have element powers.
Really?
The same reason the same reason they changed Aang from a droid to a boy, because Nickelodeon were like, kids aren't going to be able to relate to a cyborg. It needs to be human.
I'll have to ask Aaron about that. I didn't know all that background about it.
It's in if you read through the first couple of pages of the art book, one of the directors, I think is it Brian?
Brian.
Yeah, he talks about or he wrote about the kind of process they went through in designing the characters and stuff like that. So so many people don't get art books and read them. Like there's so much knowledge in those things. One of my favorite recently was actually going through the Overwatch art book and just ingesting all of that.
Oh, they have some really good GDC talks too about creating the world.
I need to get on them. They're just the dream eventually is Blizzard. That is my eventual dream. To be working at Blizzard Games, and that's going to be a long journey, but goddamn man, it'll be fun. But the guys just rock my world. I think they make some of the best games in the world, and some of the most talented people on the planet work there. And
there's a lot of talent there.
Yeah, a lot. Definitely a lot.
Going back to Avatar, you should check out some of the voices in the new show, The Dragon Prince.
Oh, right, okay. So there's some familiar characters. Yeah. I loved I think one of my favorites was Prince Zuko, and the guy who played him was the guy who played Rufio in Hook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like he was one of my kind of favorite voice actors at the time, which I loved also in Korra, when he came back to play like one of his descendants.
But yeah, anyways.
Yeah,
I can't announce anything or anything like that. But there is a bunch of information that was announced from GDC.
Okay.
Or not GDC, sorry. Comic-Con.
San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah. No, there's so many of them. It's just it's the acronyms, it's all the letters, isn't it? So
So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I have a couple of people I know who are out at San Diego just now, selling prints and doing signings and stuff like that. Some comic book guys, some game guys.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it's always. I think it's cool that people still have that side of them where they can work in games and then write comics on the side or do awesome prints and then jump down to the conventions and meet fans and sell some stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have never I've never shown my art or anything or brought my art to any of those type of
Wow,
events.
might be a plan for the future. Maybe you could take some of your Zelda inspired stuff and head
Oh
down to
yeah,
the
like little Koroks or something. I do love doing all those Korok paintings.
yeah. Yeah, that's always that's another conversation for another time. But I just listened to a whole hour podcast on Jake Parker again when they'd done a whole episode on fan art and like what's kind of like crossing the line and where does like fan art end and copyright begin. And I know we've had a couple of conversations around the table about who is an awesome person, Ross Tran, who does some amazing work. But I always wonder how he gets around um, going to the conventions and selling prints of Elsa and Korra and all the other guys. I know totally he's doing it in his style and it's his original take on the character, but yeah, I don't know how that area, which I think is quite grey, comes into effect at Comic Cons. Obviously, he's there at San Diego, he's doing it, so they must be fine with it. But yeah, I'm always wondering, especially because a lot of his premises he draws are based on Disney licenses. So um, yeah, I always wonder how he works around that. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's probably just that he's not drawing them in like a negative light, so the IPs probably don't
Yeah,
really go after him that much, and it's not.
yeah.
I think he's just
No, I think there's a loophole or a kind of grey area where it's almost not discussed. But yeah, it's always interesting to think about how that works because I know Disney themselves are super protective of all their properties. So yeah, it's always interesting when people because Ross's whole career has been built around well, not his entire career. Obviously, he has a lot more going on because he's building his own book Nima at the moment, which is obviously awesome. But yeah, his YouTube channel especially kind of focuses usually around fan art, doing different characters, which is awesome. I mean, one of the best episodes I think he ever done was when he done the Haku and that from Spirited Away. He done a kind of a fan drawing of those, and it was awesome. But yeah, it's I don't know how he converts that into prints and then sells them at cons. It's an interesting
Yeah, I don't really know too much
take.
about that either. I know, yeah, I don't know. There's, I think copyright law is something about exchange of media and style. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff,
Yeah,
and
it's a
I
very
don't
complex
really,
issue.
yeah, and I don't blame the company and studios protecting their IPs when they try to stop people doing stuff like that. Just because a lot of things I think people forget is if they let one thing slide, then that's almost like they can
What's the
people use
floodgates
that
open for the rest of stuff? Yeah.
yeah, and then people can use that in court, be like, oh, well, you let this person do this. Why is it okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
totally. No, I can understand that. If,
and
if,
just
if the,
keep that idea and
yeah,
the IP
I was
secure.
going to say as well, you'll see the Dragon Prince prints and character copies coming up at conventions. You'll see them just littered. And that's funny though. You say that because Jake Parker was actually talking about how he made the guys for his latest comic, and he had noticed he had been to conventions where he'd seen his characters as like fan art prints almost, like people had not directly copied but done their own interpretation of his characters and were selling prints of it. And he was kind of like, uh, like it's such a like. Do I kind of talk to them? Do I say something? So yeah, it's an interesting take. So yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like
yeah,
where, yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely interesting. It's again, could be another whole hour podcast talking about this, but yeah, interesting.
I
Anyway, okay. Oh
oh,
yeah,
I was just gonna
on you go,
say,
Tim.
like, I don't know. I think it's flattering when it's not like a. I just think it's flattering when people draw stuff as long as they kind of harken it back to you or like tag you in it and be like, hey, I was inspired by so and so and did this.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
they try
Jake
to
had,
use it as their own art and be like, I did this original thing, then that's a whole other
yeah,
story. But
yeah. Jake was saying something similar. He says as long as people would call out and say, you know, this is heavily inspired by Jake's character, or this is exactly inspired by Jake's character, then he's fine with it. He's like, that's fine. But he has some people who've posted stuff that I've said this is my original character, and obviously it's not. So that's when it starts crossing into
that's
the
when
danger zone.
it hurts. Like I can't imagine like the artist doing it and not really considering that. Like have some empathy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can totally imagine.
But then on the flip side, when someone does a painting and they do credit the original artist or say this was inspired by the artist, that is the opposite feeling, and it's amazing. And it's like I always, when people do that, I'm just like, oh, it makes me smile so hardcore. It makes my day. So
yeah, get on the Dragon Prince inspired stuff then.
yeah, for sure. I've been seeing a lot of drawings and fan art of the Dragon Prince, and it was awesome because we announced with just that poster,
Oh
and
wow!
it was I had just painted the back of the characters. That's all it is, and all the information
Right.
people gleaned from that was amazing. And just people they were turning the characters around and being like, "This is what their faces might look like." And it was
Oh, cool.
awesome to see that. I saw the excitement already. Just
Nice.
the poster.
I'll let you get on with the rest of your day, Tim.
Okay, well, yeah,
So
thanks for having me for sure. It was a
yeah, of
pleasure
course.
talking to you, Gordon, and yeah, I look forward to hearing more of your podcast. I'll have to listen to it now that I've been on it.
Okay, man. Okay, guys. Thanks for sticking about, and yeah, check out the links I'll leave below for Tim's work and everything else, including the Dragon Prince. And yeah, thanks Tim for coming on, and speak to you guys later. Bye.